Well, thank you everybody for joining this week's 15-minute Feature Friday. So today we're going to be talking about setting up Bing Maps in your demo system. This could also be for a pilot system, or if you've got a customer that wants to evaluate smart maps and try it out. This is how you can go about getting a API key easily to set up in that system so people can do the whole test drive thing. This also is, like I said, completely applicable for your SIABs, things like that, and it's free. So there are two ways or two primary technologies we support for smart maps. One is Google Maps and one's Bing Maps. Google Maps, historically, at least in my experience, I haven't tried in the last year or so, but historically they've been rather difficult to get the API key from, and rather difficult to get the API key to play nice within Milestone software. I'm confident there's a way to do it. I've seen it working. I just haven't frankly taken the time to fight my way through it and get it to go. Whereas Bing Maps, on the other hand, is ridiculously easy, and they practically throw the key at you and it just works. So that's what we're going to cover today, is doing it within Bing Maps. So in the invite, there was some homework there if people want to follow along to get this set up. So if you haven't done your homework, you're going to be playing catch up. But if you want to go ahead and get this rolling, we're going to head over to bingmapsportal.com. That's the location where you can actually get your key. And then from that point, you're going to log into the system using a Windows key. So if you've got an old Hotmail account, or you've got a home computer that you've set up with Windows to where it uses the online Windows to log in for your account rather than a local user account, you'll already have a key, or you'll already have a login that's applicable for this site. So if you put in your email address and it says you've already got one registered, it's because you've done something with Microsoft in the past. Use that old email address and your old password, and it should let you in. You may have to go through some approval things and agree to some, whatever terms and contracts and stuff they have. But, ultimately, it'll let you in. You'll be able to get into it, and you'll get to a screen like this that says, this is the main screen. You'll click on My Account, and you'll click on where it says My Keys. At that point, you can go over there and click where it says, click here to make a new key. You'll create a new key. Whatever you put in here doesn't matter. It's for human eyes. So I just, put Milestone in mine. You don't need an application URL. Key basic is the only choice, leave it alone. And then for application type, it doesn't, frankly, in my experience, I've made the different keys and tried different ones, and it doesn't seem to really matter too much, at least from Milestone, using the key within Milestone. But we're running this in a Windows application, so logically I would say Windows application would be what you'd choose. I think the choice you make here also impacts the licensing. So if you wanted to do high usage where you had to pay for it, I think the different application types might have different levels of usage for free allocated to it, but I'm not positive on that. The licensing is obscure and hard to find online, so it's I'm not sure how they're charging for it these days. But once you do that, you'll click Create, and then at that point, I'll switch over to my Chrome view here. You'll get a screen that says My Keys, and I've created 3 keys here. So if you create a single, you'll just have one, and then you can go in there and you can click Show Key. You'll get a long string of characters here that you'll copy. And then from that point, you'll paste that into Milestone. So that show key is the magic API key. That's what we need to actually enable this functionality in Milestone. So there's 2 places that you can implement this in Milestone. You can either put it directly into the Smart Client software. In that instance, if you do that, it'll only be available to that single workstation, that Smart Client workstation. This would be applicable if you've got a large organization wanting to test it and they don't want to roll it out to the entire organization. Just the guy doing the testing wants to have access to it. However, if you do have a large organization with a lot of users and you don't want to go to every single user's workstation and set up that API key, you can put it into the management client software. So I'll demonstrate both of those here. So in the Smart Client software, you just go to Settings, go over here to Smart Maps, and there's your option for Bing Maps key. You simply paste it into there, and then you'll have that functionality enabled. And if you want to use the management client, you do that through Smart Client Profiles, because this is applicable just to the Smart Client software. Click on whatever profile you're using, and then go over here to Smart Maps and click on Set Key for Bing Maps. That appeared on the other screen. You paste it into here, click OK, and then at that point, once you refresh your Smart Client software, then that key will be entered and available to you to use, and you'll see it fill in here. So that is what we're seeing. We're seeing it pull in the Bing Maps off of the internet and kind of fill in as I zoom in and out. And that is that part. So one little bonus feature over here, you can actually go into your key and over here and get a usage report. So for this one, at the Access Experience Center, the key I set up for that hasn't been used recently. We don't have any usage indicated over here. But if you go into the one that I'm using for our demo today, and I've been kind of playing around with it today, that was this key that I'm using. So if I go to usage report, we'll see a couple of spikes here where I've used it. Now it says billable, but it's not actually charging you. There's no credit card or anything put into this. I'm not 100% sure on how they're calculating all this stuff and what really constitutes an API call. I've got 3 calculated here so far today, and I've done quite a bit of zooming in and zooming out and moving around. It's not hitting it heavily, but I mean, you get like, I think at least licensing used to be like 50,000 per year or something, even on like the low end of it. So this is more than sufficient without having to worry about being charged for it in terms of like a demo for a test or for a SciAp system or something like that. You don't really have to sweat it. So any questions so far? I'm kind of throwing a bunch of information out there quick. Feel free to unmute and ask if you have anything doesn't make sense yet. All good? All right, so the last step to this process is you actually have to turn on Bing Maps in the Smart Client. So you actually go to the hamburger stack and actually enable that, because that's something that's very frequently overlooked. People say, I put my API key in, it still looks like crap. Well, it's because you didn't switch over to Bing Maps. You're still using the basic world map or something on there. So you click on Bing Maps, and then you can choose what flavor you like, whether it's roads, satellite, or satellite with labels for the roads. And that's what actually enables that functionality, and is kind of the final step to turning the whole thing on. And we've still got a little bit of time, so if there's not any questions or anything, I was going to drop in and do some bonus features here for Smart Maps. Any system enabled in our system, I think so. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we have Smart Maps turned on the demo site. Does anybody know for certain? Played around with it? Harry says yes.
Yeah, there's both static and Smart Map available. I'm not sure if it's the Bing Map, but I'm pretty certain it is. I was on Tom's SciAp the other day.
Yes. Any other questions or how to set it up or anything like that? And again, if you on the Windows login initially, if it tells you your email address is already registered, then it probably is, because it's referencing any of even if you've got an ancient Hotmail account or something, it'll still remember that address, and it's part of that Windows system. All right, cool. Well, if there's any other questions or anything, feel free to unmute and chime in. So if not, I'm going to proceed to some bonus features here. So let me switch the bonus content. We're going to talk about multi-story buildings in Smart Maps. All right, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to set up a multi-story building on this example over here. I'm going to go into Setup and put in a custom building. This is a relatively new feature. I forget when we added this, but it hasn't been around forever. So we're going to drop in a building, and one of the odd things about when you do a building is you don't get to do a custom shape for it. It is a rectangle or square type of shape, and you don't really get to rotate or anything like that. You just have to work with the corners. So it's not as big a deal as you might think. What you want to do is you want to outline your building here, and if you have an oddly shaped building, like we have this little part that juts out from the front here, just leave that to the widest point. The idea being, when you drop a floor plan in, the floor plan is going to mimic that shape of the building and take that into account. So everything will still largely map up, however you want to say it, when you deploy this thing. So there's my building shape just to start with. Now you can go in here and you can add levels. So I'm going to add a level first off. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to nothing. Why am I going to do that? Is because by default, when you put a level on there and you put a floor plan, it stays on there. From what I can tell, I haven't figured out an easy way to turn it off. It stays on there permanently, and you lose the satellite image over there because you'll see a floor plan, one of the floors, no matter what. So if you want to, as an option, just so you can continue to see the satellite image, make your first layer nothing. And then that way, when you add another layer on top of it, you can rename it floor 1. We'll add another layer, floor 2. And so you'll see when I add a floor plan in here for floor 1, then we can kind of get the best of both worlds. So for floor 1, I'm going to go over and I'm going to add a custom overlay. And what this is, you can choose a CAD file, shape file, or image file. I'm going to go image file, and I just randomly snagged an image file off of Google Images. No idea where it came from or who it belongs to, and it will not match, but it'll illustrate our point here. And so I can go and rotate this in. We're just going to toss this in here just to illustrate how this would work. Click save. And now we got a floor plan for our level 1, and for nothing we can still see our roof. Here's level 1. Here's level 2 that I haven't set up yet. So I'll drop another floor plan real quickly into here. Same thing. Image file. Grab another random image off of Google. Same thing. Completely doesn't match the building, but illustrates our point. All right, so now you'll see as I change floors, the floor plans change. And if I had the proper floor plan, of course, it would match up with the shape of the building. And we can still do our satellite image. So now as I drop a camera in, so I'll put a camera in on just floor 2. We pick what camera we want. I'm going to use a non-existent access camera that I don't have connected, but it again will illustrate our mission here. Going to click on that, and now we've got an access camera there. I can exit out of setup mode. We have floor 2, and you'll see when I shift to floor 1, that camera disappears with the floor plan. So this allows you to have unique cameras on each floor and not have things get cluttered up and overlapping, and you still keep your satellite image. So the final bonus feature or thing I want to point out regarding smart maps is, let's say that I want to change all this up and I decide I don't like this anymore. I'm going to delete this building, which is going to wipe out all my floors and everything. Go over here and delete my my place marks that it made. This camera still hangs out and is left over behind. I can't delete the camera. I can click on it. I can hit delete till I'm blue in the face. I can right click on it and I can choose edit, and I can pick a new icon for it, but I cannot delete the camera. I can move it, but you can't delete it. The only way to actually delete a camera once it's dropped into a smart map is to go into the management client software, navigate to that camera, and see if I get that thing. Okay, and go into its coordinates, and you'll see the coordinates aren't listed here because I haven't refreshed. So let me refresh, and then you'll see the actual real coordinates in the real world where I dropped that camera down are listed in here. So the only way to delete that camera off the map is to go and delete the coordinates out of the management client. Click save, and we go back over here, and when we refresh, my camera's gone. So that's how you delete a camera off of smart maps. And you will run into this. If you've got a customer that uses smart maps a lot, you're going to get a call that says, how do I delete a camera? I can't figure it out. That's the way you do it. We've talked to them. This was done intentionally in Milestone. Not sure why. Maybe it was kind of a safety thing to prevent people from accidentally deleting cameras, but it is a feature, not a bug. So that's just something to point out that is kind of weird about the maps that you very likely will run into. All right, and that was pretty much what I had for today. Any other questions or anything? We've got a couple of things in the chat here. Open Maps is what we have on the cloud. Yeah, we should be able to probably get that switched over to the better maps. Yep, Mike Terrace is liking the idea of the blank floor. Yeah, and as far as the name of it, you can name it whatever you want. I just named it nothing, but yeah, you can call it roof view, floor view, satellite view, whatever makes sense for your setup. And that's it. We are at time, so I will release you. I appreciate everybody showing up. If you have any other suggestions for us for future 15-minute Feature Fridays, please feel free to email them in. And if you were wanting to follow along and it went too quick, this recording will be posted on the Workplace group where we have all of our 15-minute Feature Friday recordings at, and then you can reference that to set your own system up. Again, thank you, everybody, and have a good day.